Generally, last night, Barack Obama used incredibly secular language to pitch his immigration reform plan to the country, but he did delve into biblical language at one point. Let's run that clip.
Scripture tells us that we shall not oppress a stranger, for we know the heart of a stranger. We were strangers once too. My fellow Americans, we are and always will be a nation of immigrants. We were strangers once too. And whether our forebears were strangers who crossed the Atlantic or the Pacific or the Rio Grande, we are here only because this country welcomed them in and taught them that to be an American is about something more than what we look like or what our last names are or how we worship.
Now, the right wing very often attacks President Obama for not being Christian, even though he is, and not communicating properly to this overwhelmingly Christian country. So let's see how right-wingers in the media responded to this new use of scriptural language.
I've got to say, we can have a political debate, but for this guy specifically, the president who spent his career defending late-term abortion, among other things, lecturing us on Christian faith, that's too much. I mean, that is too much. We always hear the Christian right, the Christian right. This is the Christian left at work, and it's repugnant. To quote scripture?
From the president.
That is totally out of bounds. I mean, that is just out of bounds.
Do you think it's out of bounds? I just quoted scripture back.
No, I think it's
scripture off.
It's just different. Outrageous for him to suggest that people who oppose this are somehow oppressing, quote, oppressing immigrants.
To use it, right, to guilt someone into, and that's certainly not.
Yes.
I don't think what anyone, the scholars behind the Bible, would interpret as proper use.
Ugh.
Perhaps.
Oh, definitely. I mean, people are religious. Eschew guilt trips.
No politician would ever use talk of the Bible to guilt someone into supporting a policy.
That's guilt is
never going to happen.
Guilt is what's called the foundation of religion. It's the base, right? It's the water and flour of religion. Guilt, okay? You know, Catholic. I mean, I was Catholic. We had so much. We were really Catholic, almost Jewish. That's how much. That's how much guilt we had. Okay, over to you.
There you go. So, look, I have to be honest, if you haven't already seen me admit to this before, I'm not a Christian. I was brought up for a little bit as that. I'm an athist now, so maybe I don't understand some of what goes into.
You're an atheist, like you do not believe in God. You
don't believe. Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm 5% agnostic. It's not impossible, but I'm mainly
fundamentalist atheist.
Oh, yeah, it's almost a religion at this point. And so maybe there's something I'm missing about quoting from the Bible, but you don't need to believe something for it to make sense that you quote it. The person who listens to you quote it is the one who it matters if they believe it or not. So if it's in the Bible, it doesn't matter if a Muslim or a Hindu or an atheist quotes it at you. Do you believe it or not? And you say that you do. He's pointing out the obvious hypocrisy between your religious beliefs and your political beliefs. And you have no response to that. That's why you have to say that it's just repugnant, as if Obama is the only Christian left person in the country. No, it's actually fairly significant. Obama makes a great point. It should not take I'm not going to say an atheist. I believe he's an atheist. It should not take Obama to point out to you what you Christians say you believe. You should be leading on that. Unfortunately, for the most part, you don't actually care what's in the Bible.
I mean, to me, I don't care whether the guy saying it believes it. I don't care if the people listening believe it. I don't think religion should have anything to do with our public discourse. So I think it's a little disingenuous. I don't think he's really doing a lot of things out of religious fervor. So he's just throwing that in there to give some meat, I suppose, to get some of that guilt going on the people that aren't agreeing with him. I guess. I just don't like hearing that in public policy discussions. It has nothing to do with nothing. You're talking about policy and why we should do something, and then you're picking a book that really has no real meaning in reality.
But we know he doesn't govern biblically, so it doesn't matter. He can, to me, if he wants to quote it, he can quote it. And it's not so much a message to the people who oppose him, it's to the message to the people who aren't paying attention. It's a message to people who are religious and giving them a moment to think, hey, look, if you want to look at this biblically, look at it biblically, because if you read the Bible carefully, there's really only one decision to make here.
Yeah.
And of course, nobody in a public policy decision ought to be basing their decisions on the Bible, but we know most of one party does, and there was at least one guy in our party, but he lost, Mark Pryor.
Oh. It was his compass. Okay, so there's a couple of Fox hosts. We have one more for you. This is Mike Huckabee. It is interesting that Obama cites scripture as the justification for him taking unilateral action on illegal immigrants. Funny how for the first 6 years of his administration, scripture did not compel immediate action. But 2 weeks after the final election he'll have to deal with, suddenly scripture requires us to do this. I always thought that scripture was eternal and unchanging, but apparently now that Obama is president, scripture gets rewritten more often than Bill Cosby's Wikipedia entry. did a
Wow, zing to Bill Cosby.
yeah,
there.
exactly.
Jeez.
Unnecessary reference to Bill Cosby, I suppose. I don't understand what point he's trying to make there. JR and I in the production meeting were trying to understand it. You're politically motivated to make moves like this right before an election. What is he? I don't understand how it's like, oh, all of a sudden I have my opening and election's over. And by the way, it's also fairly stupid for him to not understand that a sitting president, of course, is massively involved in the election of the Democrat to replace them.
And you know that if he decided now to, like, I don't know, go become pro-life because of the scripture, that Mike Huckabee would go, that's bullshit. The last 2 years, all of a sudden you're going to be pro-life. No, of course he'd be like, oh, finally, he woke up and he's going to follow the Bible. Yeah. But when he follows the Bible, which you want to ignore, the part you want to ignore, then you say some kind of bull. That's the most convoluted. By the way, I hope Mike Huckabee runs. He'll be the fattest guy running.
Oh, now he will, actually.
I just think it's nonsense Obama saying it. I think Huckabee's nonsense. This has nothing to do with how you're supposed to run this government. They're allowed to believe it and they're allowed to say it. I get it. That's not what separation of church and state is. But it's just like, ugh, you're all awful.
Right, but don't do that, Dave, because they all are awful, but one guy's not governing by it. One guy's just saying it. The other guy, Mike Huckabee, will govern by it. And that's a huge, colossal difference.
I will gladly concede you that point.
Thank you.